Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Carla from Rehan Allahwala's World of Connections. And I am here to talk to M. Imran Sajid. I think M stands for Mohammed, but he'll tell us that in a few moments. He was born in Lahore, Pakistan, I believe. He has moved to New York and now he's in California, and I forget where in California, but he'll tell us about that. And we're going to talk about his life, his work, and his passions. And we're both getting used to using StreamYard. Anyway, I want to remind you that this show, like all of my shows, is sponsored by the Institute of Peace, which is an online organization promoting peace one conversation at a time. Okay, Imran or Sajid, tell me what I should call you and please introduce yourself.
You can call me Imran. So I am Muhammad Imran Sajid, born in Lahore, Pakistan, and I remained. I graduated in pharmacy, and I was a pharmacist in Pakistan. And then I my whole life was spent in academia. So I had been a part of different universities in Pakistan. For example, Hajwiri University, University of Central Punjab, King Edward Medical University, and after that, in 2016, I came to United States on visit visa for appearing the foreign pharmacy graduate equivalency examinations. So my idea was that I will come here and I will try to register myself as a pharmacist in New York. And my family, some of my family members live in New York. They are very dear to me. So I stayed in New York for 2 months from February 2016 until April 2016, and then I went back Pakistan, and then I applied for a Fulbright scholarship, and that Fulbright scholarship, I mean, incidentally, picked me up for the PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. So I am in doing PhD in pharmaceutical sciences at Chapman University School of Pharmacy, Irvine, California. It is in Orange County, one of the best weathers of the world, the Orange County. It's year long spring. There is no snow as we see in East Coast. But if we want to see the snow, we can go like within 2 hours drive. You can go to have a snow. You can go to have a desert. You can go to have mountains, and you can go to have beaches. So that's what my little introduction is. My cause is I am trying to train the human resource in Pakistan who are very talented but not are trained, and they know little about capitalism and how capitalism is working. So I just teach them how to groom themselves as a person. Like if my person like me who belongs from a very humble background can come to United States and can do the things, they can also do it. So they just need awareness, and once they are exposed to different people, what I say is that if you are exposed to just 5 people, your thinking will be different. But if you are exposed to 1,000 people, your thinking will be very different. So I encourage them to connect with the people around the globe, know them, how they are living, and then compare themselves with them in a way, not compare in the what their thoughts are and what their problems are, and what Pakistanis can try to learn from them. And I am also a proponent of marriage between East and West. So it's like there are a lot of good things in the West, and there are a lot of good things in the East. So we have to try to know each other through dialogue, through conversation, try to understand, being respectful, so that we can groom ourselves as a person.
Wow, that's really cool. You've been in the United States now for 5 years. What do you like most about the United States?
There are many things that I like good about United States. The United States is a very diversified country. It is like 50 states, and a lot of people from all the nationalities are here. What I see is mostly, so there are two types of America. One America that you see through CNN, through New York Times, through LA Times, through Washington Post, and one that we experience while living in America. They are very two different Americas. I see during my experience in United States here, I see the people are very friendly, hardworking, down to earth, humble, and they are trying to take care of themselves, and they are they are trying to solve some problems. For instance, I am kind of my background is in research, so Americans are doing very good work in terms of research, and try. For example, we in the recent pandemic, America gave the vaccines to the globe, right? Then there are a lot of things that they have after a 350 years of struggle. They have developed a system where you can see the cleanliness everywhere. They are mindful of their responsibilities. They have the social responsibilities. There is the you know law, the power of law. Like you cannot break the law. For example, if I am driving, I cannot break the rules of the traffic. And if someone catches me doing something wrong, even if I'm the president of the United States, I have to pay the ticket. I am not above law. So that is what here in I see in America, which is very good and which is lacking somehow in the developing countries.
Very nice. Now, I assume you have done the 500 friend experiment with Rehan. Have you done it?
Yes, that's very interesting question. So I did it when I got connected to Rehan Allahwala first time. That was back in 2015. I made around 500, more than 500 friends, and then I put into that group called Rehan Allahwala group. But because I was in academia and I was like kind of well-read person, so then those friends dropped from 500 to now I think they are like around 150. So we couldn't somehow aligned with each other. That experiments, that 500 mutual experiment is very good, very very good for the people who do not have any direction in their life. But a person who is already having a direction and goal, that five making the 500 friends of Rehan Allahwala, I am not sure like whether that can help, because everyone in Rehan Allahwala's group, who is especially from abroad, they are doing some work. They are not free people. They are doing some great work, right? And they don't have much time to give you, personally. That is the reason. If you are determined, so if you don't have direction and you have time, it is worth doing that activity of making friends of Rehan Allahwala, because the friends of Rehan Allahwala are amazing people. But if you are already doing something, introduce yourself to Rehan Bhai, and he can connect you with some great people. And he is a very good connector of the people. I mean, he is expert in connecting the people around the globe, and he have spent like more than like now I think 15 or 16 years in doing that.
Now, you said how you want to bring people together in your introduction. Did that come from Rehan's experience experiment, and did that motivate you to bring people together?
So there are two things. First is that I am greatly influenced by Rehan Bhai. He is he actually does what he actually breaks the barriers from your mind. I remember like first time I was in New York JFK airport, and I was very tired. I couldn't sleep for 2 days, and then like I met him, and he said, "Okay, record your interview for 2 minutes, introduction interview." I was like, no, I cannot do it. I cannot do it. I cannot do it. And he said, no, nothing will happen. Don't worry. Just record yourself. And I recorded that introduction and nothing happened. So my shyness that I had in my mind, that kind of disappeared by doing that experiment, so people are afraid of coming in front of the camera. They are afraid of showing themselves. They are afraid of telling the world that they exist, and they have some meaning in their lives. So that is what Rehan Bhai do, and he actually tries to help people uh, know themselves and bring those barriers that are stopping them from progressing.
And that's very important. What was your major barrier, would you say?
Shyness, afraid of people. I was afraid of people. Maybe people, what will people say? I was very shy person growing up, and then I always thought when I was a kid, I was always thought like how big people become big. I have seen, I read a lot of like autobiographies or biographies of great people, and I was just amazed, like how do they become the way they are? So, for example, Benjamin Franklin, how did he become Benjamin Franklin? Stephen R. Covey, how did he become Stephen R. Covey? Or, for example, Viktor E. Frankl, how did he become Viktor E. Frankl? Faraday, how did he become Faraday? So I was just amazed, and then I got to know that the for becoming a leader or for becoming a big person, like a valuable person, resourceful person, the first biggest thing is that you should be courageous. You should not fear the people. People are same everywhere. You should not have the fear of the people. It's something. This is your assumption, and what I think learned is that never assume, ask. Never assume, ask. You know, that is one thing I learned in my life, that I don't assume. I ask. If I have some question, I will ask. So that is how it is. People like who are not that much exposed to the world. They assume, oh, maybe this is because of this. This is maybe because of this. So they are their own speculations, and some straight questions you get to know.
What was one of your major questions when you were interviewing people for that experiment that your you really wanted an answer?
So when I usually interview people a lot, so I just ask them, what do you want to do with your life?
What did you find to be an answer that many people seem to give you when you ask that question?
It is all it depends. The answer and the question reveals a lot about the personality. You know, uh, so when I ask someone some questions, so there is disconnect. There is disconnect between what they want in their life and what they are doing. So, for example, someone want to become rich, but he's doing everything which is stopping him to become rich. Or someone wants to have some good relationships, but he's doing or she's doing everything that is actually opposite of that. So there is disconnect when they ask question, when they talk to someone like who is learned. Those things become clear in your mind. Oh, okay, I was wrong, I was not thinking right. If this is my way, so I need to go that way. Fundamentally something changes in the mind when we start asking question and interrogating the people. So that is what I observed when I interview the people. There is serious disconnect between what they think and what they do.
Was that did you find that to be something you see often, even when you're meeting people in your job as a pharmacist, or is this something that you saw more often when you were doing these interviews?
Well, it's a global phenomenon, and there are two types of people who have discovered their element, who know what they are doing, and they are passionate about what they are doing. And there are people who are just doing jobs. They are not clear of what they are doing. So everywhere I find the same phenomenon. There are people who are for instance, if I because I see people here in United States. There are a lot of things that have happened in the United States, and there are very big brains. There are a lot of influencers in the United States who has transformed the people. When we are growing up, whatever we learn, everyone who is born, uh, if I, for example, my mother speaks Urdu or Punjabi, so I will start speaking Urdu and Punjabi, right? But if my mom spoke English to me, I would have been speaking English. If my mom started speaking like Spanish, I will be speaking Spanish. So it is all about the exposure. So what kind of people you are interacted with. So any very good thing like just came in my mind. I'm not sure whether I am asking your question or not, answering your question or not, but whatever good happens in our life happens because of people, and whatever bad happens in our life, that also happens because of the people. So we must be very careful in choosing the people whom we are trying to surround ourselves with. So that is my understanding. So when I see there is disconnect, that is because of their lack of exposure to the right people in their lives.
And I believe that's very, very true. Now, you are a pharmacist, correct?
Yes.
And how long have you been a pharmacist?
Well, I graduated in 2017, 2007 from Pakistan, right? And so it's been like now more than 14 years that I have been a pharmacist, right? But I am pharmacist as well as scientist. I am not practicing pharmacist. I don't work on the retail pharmacy. There are a lot of dimensions of the pharmacy. So I am more interested in research. So I have spent most of my time teaching and doing research, and trying to discover the things that fascinate me. For example, how our body works, how we evolved biologically, what are genes, like how genes transforms ourselves. So there are a lot of things that like I do in science. So as a pharmacist, it's been like 14 years, but like as a teacher and as a scientist, it's been like more than a decade now.
So you're more of a teacher. You're more of a teacher than a practical pharmacist. What made you decide to go into teaching
Wow.
instead of being a pharmacist, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand it. So when I was in pharmacy school in Punjab University, so I had a predilection to teach my class fellows. I started teaching them, and I saw my teachers. So what I observed is that in our country we need a lot of good teachers who inspires people for learning, who inspire who bring the curiosity out of them. When we are born, we ask a lot of questions, but down the way, when we are growing up, we stop asking questions. And teaching is all about asking questions, answering questions, trying to explore, and then uplifting the people who are in trouble, uh, and showing them the way that, okay, if someone has done something, you can also do it. So, essentially, I was determined that I wanted to become a professor. I want to become a professor in academia. So immediately after my graduation, I started my career in teaching, in Pakistan. So immediately after graduation, like 2 months, I joined University of Lahore, and then I did two things, like I was doing job as well as I was teaching, so studying, sorry. So I was doing studies, I was doing MPhil, so I did MPhil in biochemistry, then I did MPhil in pharmaceutics, and yeah, meantime I was teaching, and then I wanted to do the PhD. So the different education system in United States and in Pakistan, they are very different. There are a lot of things that has to be translated from here to there.
What was it that fascinated you that you wanted to go into teach chemistry, which I believe a pharmacist does, instead of something else?
Pharmacist does both chemistry and biology. It's not only chemistry; it's biology as well. So that is an interesting question. Scientists are not good communicators, unfortunately. Uh, that is the trouble with them. That is the reason science looks boring, because they are not good communicators. They had not been trained to become a good communicator. They are trained to become good, scientists, not communicators. So I was exposed to Carl Sagan. You may have heard of him, and then his student Neil deGrasse Tyson, who uh, made a program called Cosmos. If you remember Cosmos, like there are 13 episodes, and that Cosmos changed my mind. So it tells us the story of the past 350 years, especially, and the earlier works, like for the first time, what happened in the mind of a person to start thinking that how images are formed. Then it was Ibn al-Hazm, right? How first time the electricity was produced. What happened in the mind of Newton to think about the laws of the nature. So all those things. And then when you are good at communicating, if scientists become good at communicating, they can inspire people for science. They can inspire people for understanding the nature that is very much complex and fascinating. So that is how. So when I try to go into the details and the start of the things, that how this thing actually got started. What was the first person who started thinking about it, and how he started thinking about it.
Do you feel that science is more spiritual than how people think about it? People think, oh, it's very blank and there's nothing, you know, you're just thinking science. But it seems like the scientists are the people who are exploring what existence really is.
Scientists, I don't know they are spiritual or not, but they become humble. Scientists become humble because when they see, they actually get to know about their ignorance. Scientists are the people who actually know that they don't know.
What do you mean by they know what they don't know? Explain that. I love that phrase.
That's wonderful. So it started from Socrates. You know, Socrates, he actually started teach, and he used to interrogate the people. His and he actually introduced to the word dialecticism. So how the a dialect is formed, and he used to question like, what is beauty, what is bravery. So people around him used to tell him that they know, but when he started interrogating them, he got to know that they don't know. And he also said that I also know that I don't know. So there is difference between the ignorance. The one is informed ignorance, and other is like uninformed ignorance. They are ignorant, but they are not aware of their ignorance, right? And they feel that they know everything. And the person who say that he knows everything, actually he doesn't know anything. So he is not truthful to his own self. And the scientists are, when we actually get exposed to the world, when we see the home we are living in right now, this is planet Earth, right? And when we see the complexity of it, and we can go to the microscopic side and we can go to the macroscopic side. In both ways, you see a lot of things that are still puzzling, and there are still thousands and thousands of questions that has not been answered, and we don't know, you know so that is what, like, one is, if one is informed of his own ignorance, that yes, I there are a lot of things that I don't know, then what will happen? He will start learning. So Stephen R. Covey somewhere says that admission of ignorance is the first step towards learning. So unless I don't admit that I am ignorant, I will not start learning.
What made you so passionate about science and pharmacy?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get your question. Can you rephrase it?
Oh, why did you become so passionate about science and spreading that knowledge through the world?
You are asking me when?
I was asking why.
Okay.
What was it that made you
I,
decide to do
I
this?
honestly speaking, I don't know. But since when I am born, I'm curious. I'm curious about the world around me. I see the pains, and I saw a lot of pains around me, and the people who are in suffering. And then I see the quality of life being improved. Uh, and this is very interesting phenomenon. Just say, when I was a kid, I used to ask a lot of questions, and then I am fortunate to have a very good company of the people when I was growing up who were used to read books. So actually, when I was in high school, I was exposed to like three friends who have their libraries at their home, but I didn't have any library at my home. So I used to borrow the books from them and read them. And that thing, okay, I got to know a lot of things, okay, so there is something in me. I don't know why it is so. Uh, but I try to connect the dots. I try to see, okay, why US is like US? Why is Ethiopia like Ethiopia, or Africa like Africa, or Pakistan like Pakistan, or India like India? And people are fighting with each other, and that conflicts and wars and all that stuff that is happening around the world. That is all stemming from the ignorance that they don't know. Uh, there is no use of fight, and people have learned it. All the Europe learned it very hard way. That's why they became European Union. But so the war and conflicts, they are because of ignorance, what I believe. Otherwise, if people are respectful of each other, they're trying. So basically, what is like that? I am saying something different, you are saying something different, and we are saying the same thing, and we are fighting. So basically, you are on the other side, I am on this side. So what we have to do is that I have to take you either onto my side, or I have to go to your side to see the same thing that I am seeing and then you are seeing. So if we start seeing the things the same way on a same page, there will be no fight. And then we'll say, "Oh my God, you are right. Yeah, actually, I was wrong."
How, when did you become so curious about science in your life? Was it when you were a young boy? Was it when you were going to school?
Yeah. Uh, Initially, I didn't have anything, like the science. More, I will say that it evolved gradually. It evolved gradually. So the passion towards science evolved literally gradually. I cannot remember that what was the exact year or time when I actually got introduced to this, but it's a complex. There are two, three things, and I'm thankful to you for your interview. You're trying to actually start me thinking. Like, I should think about these questions as well. So, for instance, when I was in high school and like in pre-medical college, there were like I was doing FSC in pre-medical, so it's FSC is like equivalent to the high school in United States. So that was curious, like how our body works, and there are a lot of things that actually caused me to think, okay, I think that there were questions, there were a lot of questions, and I was always eager to answer that question. I mean, get the answers to those questions. And more I started learning, more I started to know. Now I know we actually don't know. There are things that we know, but there are a lot of things that we still don't know, especially in medicine or pharmacy. I mean, in human science or the natural science, we know that there are a lot of things doctors even don't know. You know, uh, we don't have the answers. But I encourage people to start thinking. Maybe we can find the answers. And I can say that there was some seed in me, and that got germinated by the exposure to the great people. I consider them great. For example, Socrates, or uh, Peter Diamandis, or Seth Godin, or Stephen R. Covey, or it's kind of a mixture between philosophy and science. So it's like two things. So when I started reading them, I was fascinated. Why they are thinking this way and we don't think that way.
Do you feel that maybe science is more of a philosophy? Because, yeah, when you do chemistry, you unite different elements together and you come up with something else. Like a cake is actually, when you make a chocolate cake, you're actually performing a scientific experiment. And I'm wondering if science is actually a spiritual practice more so than people have thought. Science is very blank and very dry. What do you think?
Whatever is blank or dry is because you don't understand it. If you start understanding anything, it will become very interesting. It will happen spontaneously, and you will not help yourself to start pursuing it. So if I actually consider something boring, it is because of the fact that I don't understand it. So science, those who understand science, they don't feel science, they find science very interesting. But those who don't understand science, they feel science is very boring. And second question, like science is spiritual. Yes, it can be spiritual, and it cannot be spiritual. So it's a very thin line between becoming spiritual, and it depends upon the intention of the scientist. Intention of the scientist, So if what is my intention of learning that subject? It is either to grasp the power or to make the people my slaves, or it is to enable the people using that science to improve their quality of life and make them better human beings. For instance, in the medical science, if we see that uh, first time when Fleming made the antibiotic during the uh, Second World War, penicillin. Before that, a lot of people used to die, and now the mortality rate. And this is a very interesting statement that I am trying to give you now. Before year 2000, before 1899, there was the population of the world less than 1 billion. All over the world, the population of the world was less than 1 billion. Since 1900 until today, the population has rose from less than 1 billion to over 7 billion. And world faced two major world wars during this time as well. What has caused the population to grow that much exponentially? That is the question. Just understand, like, how is it possible, like, in just 121 years, the population has increased from less than a billion to more than 7 billion? Now I am in California, and you are in I think Maryland or and right? Yeah. And I'm talking to you as if you are sitting right next to me. This is all because of science. Someone has thought about it, and that is how we are talking to each other. So this science is enabling. It's kind of a spiritual thing. But if you try to invent science to make the bombs, atomic bombs, and to kill the people and to make them slaves, uh, and now the slaves have different meanings. We are some slavery is still there, but we don't know that it is still there. Capitalistic capitalism in itself is actually kind of a practice of slavery in a very sophisticated terms. Uh, but there are questions still. We need to educate our younger generations to start thinking about it, like how we should be connected to the history. I mean, just say that. I mean, I don't know what is your thinking. How old we are as a human being?
Actually, that's a very interesting question because who decided, and we're getting off topic, but it's fine. Who decided what a year is, what a day is, what a minute is? We created that. We as human beings created it at some time in history, and we continued to believe it as time went on. And yet, there's no reason to say a minute is a minute. A minute could also be an hour, depending on how we define the words. Very interesting
Yeah,
topic.
yeah. So I just ask a simple question, like, for instance, I mean, just saying it. We consider human being as one person. I mean, all the humanity as one person, and he is, let's say, 1 million old, 1 million year old, or maybe half a million year old, and he did nothing, and he was like, he was living around the water. He was yeah, like he was growing his own food or her own food, and suddenly something happened, and we started seeing the skyscrapers, and we started seeing the world is moving. There are fast traffic. If for instance, like 400 years ago I thought of coming to America, it would have killed my 300 years. No, then sorry, not 300 years, 3 years to come to United States on foot or through something. So past 300 years are very revolutionary, and we have to somehow understand why they have become revolutionary. What happened? And if we study, I mean, I am not sure, but I mean, this is my thought. It all started in Italy in 15th century when some people started questioning, and when they started questioning, there came artists, there came scientists, there came a lot of things. So, and unless we connect with that, we cannot see what's going to happen next. And the next years, like the next hundred years or like 50 years, they're going to be very very much revolutionary. We know now AI. We know now there are a lot of things that are coming up, and this is all because of science. And knowing all of that is not possible. I can know a little thing about a little thing about a little thing, but and there we actually become humble and see that we don't know.
Interesting point. We've been speaking for a while now, and I think we can get ready to wind this down. Can you give our audience some words of wisdom to end for them to think about?
I am not wise person to tell that what I can give as a source of wisdom, but I will try to uh, I mean ask them or suggest them. Just start asking questions and do not settle for the stupid answers. Just start asking questions. Why the way we are? Why as a human being the way we are? No, and start reading. Though there are only two three sources of knowledge. One is reading, other is observation, third is talking in like dialogue, not dialogue to defeat each other, dialogue to learn from each other, and then sitting in silence and thinking about the world we are living in. So start doing that, and if you can do that, you can start enjoying your life somehow. You will try to feel okay. My life is worth doing something.
Thank you so much, Imran, for speaking with me tonight. I want to thank the audience for watching and remind everyone that I will be back tomorrow for the English show and Mind Tour. And feel free to watch us either on YouTube or on Facebook. And I want to thank the Institute of Peace for sponsoring this interview. And with that, we're going to wave goodbye. Bye, everyone. We'll see you again later.